The laity on today, I feel like sharing the word of the Lord. Daniel 5, the book of Daniel, the 5th chapter. God has been so good, so faithful to us. And I want you to feast your eyes on the 25th through the 31st verses. Daniel 5, 25 through 31. Daniel 5, 25 through 31. You know, there's some bad boys in the Bible. There's some real bad boys in the Bible. I know, and if you're a man in here or a woman, you've been bad at one time or another. You may have not been popping your skirt tail or ingesting drugs and alcohol, but at one time or another, you've been bad because all of our unrighteousness is sin. It's as filthy rags. Am I right about it? Our righteousness is as filthy rags. So all of us at one time or another have been bad. And so I want to talk about this bad boy in the Bible. Many of you have heard of him before in Daniel 5. But you know what I've learned about bad examples, you can learn something good from bad examples. You don't just have to have a good example to learn something good. But you can also learn something good from a bad example. Am I right about it? So in Daniel 5, let's take a look at it, the 25th verse. It says, "And this is the writing that was written. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin." This is the interpretation of the thing. Mene means God hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it. God has numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel means thou have been weighed in the balance and you're found wanting. You have been weighed in the balance and you've been found wanting. Perez, or Upharsin, thy kingdom is divided. This is the interpretation. Thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Goes on to say in the 29th verse, "Then commanded Belshazzar, and they clothed Daniel with scarlet and put a chain of gold around his neck." I want you all to stay with me. "And made a proclamation concerning him, that he should be the third ruler in the kingdom. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain. And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old." In other words, being about 62 years old. Back to that 25th verse, you see there, it says, "And this is the writing that was written. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. Mene, Tekel, Upharsin." I want to give you a subject today based on the 25th verse of the 5th chapter of Daniel. The graffiti God. The graffiti God. Look at your neighbor and tell them, we have a graffiti God. Come on, look at someone else, tell them, we have a graffiti God. You know, growing up in Los Angeles County, to be exact, the city of Compton, I grew up in an area that was infested with taggers or graffiti artists. All throughout our community, you could walk and you would see graffiti on the walls. Not only just on the walls that separated house from house, but you would see graffiti on the overpasses of the freeway, and sometimes it would really astonish me because I would wonder, how in the world did they get way up there to write their insignia or to write their gang's name on the overpass? And they use graffiti primarily for two reasons. They use graffiti to memorialize people. You may want to write that down. And also to publicize. They use graffiti to memorialize and also to publicize. Publicize what? It's used to publicize turf, neighborhood. So if you're a Crip, the graffiti would let the Bloods know, look, homie, you can't do business over here. This is our neighborhood. This is our turf. And if you're a Blood, you put up graffiti to let the Crips know. Look here, us Damus or us Bloods rule and reign over here in this area, so you cannot come into our territory. So they use graffiti to memorialize. Let me hear you say memorialize. And let me hear you say publicize. Yeah, they use it to memorialize and they use it to publicize. And when you look at some of the graffiti, it's really artistic. There's a gift involved. Amen, somebody, in the artistry of graffiti. And it expresses the artistic brilliance of that particular artist. Oh yes, and in many instances of very gifted people. It's just like some of your drug dealers, they're actually entrepreneurs. But their gift has just been perverted. Am I right about it? So you have some very gifted people that write on walls. But when I think of graffiti, graffiti did not originate in LA. Graffiti was not found in the ghettos of Los Angeles County. In fact, perhaps the first recorded graffiti writer is in our text on today. Right here in Daniel 5, in about the 25th verse. Because God wrote graffiti. And in my study, he wrote it about 6th century BC. He wrote that, and in the ancient Babylon to a defiant king by the name of Belshazzar. Oh yes, he did. And God got his attention by using graffiti. Tell your neighbor, God used graffiti. Yeah, he used graffiti, or what they call in gang culture, tagging. So God got his attention by tagging the wall. Now, who is Belshazzar, brother preacher? Belshazzar is the grandson of one of the most notorious kings of Babylon by the name of Nebuchadnezzar. Many of you have heard of him, and his most notable action was when he held the children of Israel captive. And that was about in 587 BC. Ravished their women and razed their temples and took away the children of Israel about 800 miles, deported them all the way to Babylon. Not only did he deport the children of Israel, but he also deported their holy, sacred, sanctified utensils that they used to worship God. They used to give God glory in the temple with various vessels and goblets of gold and things of that nature. He took all of those sacred things and he deported them to Babylon. And Babylon, many of you may know, is modern day Iraq. And not only did he do that, but he set them aside and he made a mockery and put them out on display to demonstrate his power and to demonstrate his authority over the nations of the entire world. But the Bible teaches us that the only reason that Nebuchadnezzar, amen, of Babylon was able to defeat the people of God, the only reason he was able to defeat the Jewish people was because God, hear me now, allowed him to do it. I said the only reason he was able to usurp the degree of authority that had been conferred upon him by God was because God allowed him to do it.